Wonder, curiosity, connection. Where will your adventures take you? I'm Dr. Diane, and thank you for joining me on today's episode of Adventures in Learning. So, welcome to the Adventures in Learning podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Diane, and I am so excited to introduce today's guest. I met Nicole on the trip of a lifetime. She was shepherding 25 of us around Argentina and Antarctica, making sure nobody got lost, nobody got eaten by a seal, nobody fell overboard, and that we all came back with a greater awareness of our world and of the impact that we have. And so you get to meet this woman who is trilingual, is incredibly intelligent, and knows more about charts and about Shackleton than you ever learned in school. So, Nicole, welcome to the program.
Thank you. Thank you. You're very kind. Thank you.
So, I guess the first question I want to ask is, how did you get into travel and guiding people on trips around South America and Antarctica?
Well, it's a very funny story because I was doing nothing. In Chile, we do like any other places for tourism. I was practicing language by working in a store where they sell stuff for tourism. You know, in Chile, in this case, will be copper stuff and lapis lazuli, which is our national stone. And I'm supposed to be there selling, just selling stuff for the tourist. But I never did, because every time we got the buses, I start to talk with the guides and then with the clients that don't want to buy anything. So the ones that basically there is always a table with coffee for people that don't want to buy anything. And I was always in that corner talking with the people that basically, never bought stuff. So I was very lucky because I got my salary anyway, and that was good. But eventually all the guides were telling me, hey, what are you doing here? I mean, you never sell anything anyways. Why you just start working as a guide? And this is 1998. So I was young. And when you are young, you have other ideas of the universe. You think that you need to learn first, you need to study, you need to, be a guide. And then one day I saw through the window one of these big buses with the tourists leaving. And I will never forget that day because it was a very big window. And I saw the bus leaving through the rain. And I saw the guy with a microphone and people laughing on the bus. And I wonder, what the hell I'm doing here? I mean, I don't want to be here. I want to be that guy, telling lies to the people and and make it up stories. And the very next day, I just quit, and I went to live in the middle of the desert, in the driest desert in the whole world, Atacama Desert, to start working as a guide in the office and whatever, learning from zero, because I thought that is the way you do it. Probably I won't do the same thing today because it was kind of hard. So my ideas of learning were always like that. I mean, you have to learn to manage.
So where were the places that you went to learn how to be a guide? You said you started in the desert. What have been some of the places that you've gone to and learned?
Well, I was actually lived for a year there. And then when I moved back to the capital of my country, Santiago, I start to travel immediately to Patagonia, taking study trips for myself. And I always incorporate, I think, and it's been always the same for me, the learning is not the final destination. It is a way of living. It's the process. You're never ending. So I always get time to study, and I this theory about the first 20 hours of learning that basically says that the first 20 hours of whatever you try to learn are the best because the brain is engaged of that, and it is the maximum you are going to get from your learning experience when you learn more. So whether it's Chinese or piano or guitar or photography or whatever. So I always use that technique. I said, okay, I want to study about this, and I get always at least 20 hours for that. And then history, architecture, whatever, of the destinations, of the nature. And it's a very good method because it's very engaging. Because then if you want to keep doing it, or you said, okay, this is enough, let's move to another one. So you, at the end of the day, you have a variety of topics that you are not master of, but you are a very good apprentice, and you at least know a few things. So that's the way I learn.
To me. So, and you've been all over the world, I'm assuming.
Yes, everywhere. All continents.
What have been your favorite places?
Well, depends for what, because it's a very unfair question in terms of your last love is always the best love. So it's going to be Antarctica by far, of course,
right?
Because it's my last love, right? It is the one I've been investing, 6 years. But it depends of it. If we talk about just beautiful destinations, by far, I think one of the best destinations is in my country, in Patagonia, in Argentina and Chile as well. It's an amazing place. I love some places in the United States in the national parks, like Sedona. I think it's an amazing places where, Bora Bora in Tahiti, it's overwhelming. Mauritius Islands are amazing. So it's going to be depending of if we're going to talk about culture or about nature. I love nature. I always prefer that kind of guidance than the big cities. But of course, Antarctica, it is out of the world. It's not another place in the planet. It is the place on the planet. It is hard if you compare with the Arctic, but it's still Antarctica. It's still farther and more unique.
Do you find it's hard to make people understand how beautiful Antarctica is without them seeing it? Because I know you've done some virtual programs for Rhodes Scholar as well as leading the tours. And I know since coming back, trying to find the words to be able to convey how unique and out of this world and special Antarctica is difficult.
Yeah, it is difficult, but then there is I don't want to call it technique because it sounds very cold, but there is something you have to apply when you, especially in the online world, you need to apply if you want to be successful. So there is things like you always remember a busy brain, it's an engaged brain. Number one. So you need to make sure that regardless of the time you are using the online experience with the people, you need to make them always to be busy, their brains. And also remembering that online, basically, it's really hard to keep the attention of anybody more than 20 minutes or 30 minutes at maximum because it's online. Right. So we need to work the process of how you keep the brain of somebody engaged, but also with a purpose, which is the emotional factor, right? So, number one, you need to remember that a busy brain is an engaged brain. So, how we do that? Second, it's like as Confucius said. So, I heard something and I do forget easily. I see something and I remember, but then I do and I understand, right? So how you make people do something using, the brain and whatever in the online experience. Can I do something when they participate even briefly? Because the moment when you incorporate your body or in your brain doing something, you are engaged again. So how can I do that? Okay. You need to think about it. Regardless what it is, the program you're having, we do have, for instance, trivia questions in the program with the Rhodes Scholar. I believe that we can always add something else where you said, okay, if your thing is number one, clap your hands or move your head. It's like technique we use. I've seen used with the kids because you really need to have that factor. Then you need to remember that the best masters are professors, the best delivers are not the ones that answer all the questions, but the ones that leave you with many questions and just show you the path to find the answers the way you like it, the way is better for you, because every single person is more artistic, more brain, the ones that really just like to learn by reading. So how we do that, it's another thing. So the same person can, I don't know, Shackleton's story. For the same person, you need to prepare the story for the people that likes just visuals. But the most important thing is that if you don't have that visual, are you able to make a compelling story with that? Because at the end of the day, of course, the how do you say, the very best master, it is or the very best way to learning is when you actually have an experience, by far. But that the second best, it's a compelling story, by far. So you cannot have the first one. How would you do the second one? A compelling story. And in the online world, for instance, you need to find out the mixture, the images, the sounds, the proper breaks, because you need to make the whole experience just like a good movie, just like a good book. You need to have a powerful beginning. You need to have a climax. You need to have a good ending. You need to have a good close-up. You need to have good characters. You need to have the story. So it's all about how you make the preparation, how you make the script of what you're doing. And at the end of the day, that is what we try to deliver.
Well, and I know you're a master at that. I heard your Shackleton lecture. Even when I was seasick, you taught me how to do charting, and I brought it home and I remembered and was able to carry that through. You're really good at being able to do that. And as you're talking, I'm realizing that this is part of what we do as teachers too. When we want kids to understand, we give them those hand-on experiences. And if we can't, then we do exactly what you said. We frame it in story. We find ways to make it compelling and to have that really good beginning, middle, end that leaves them wanting more and makes them want to learn.
Yes. It's exactly it. It's like the brain, the human brain, it sees the world and understands the world in a story, in a storytelling frame. I mean, it's everything. And that's the reason why we like to humanize everything as well. I mean, if we see penguins, we immediately think about human little things. And do you remember this movie about the octopus that won an Oscar like a few years ago? That was very famous. It was super famous. It's a very good example. I saw the movie, and it's so obvious that we liked it because we humanized the octopus, because every single verb used in that film and every single approach is like with a human other. And that's the reason why it's so compelling, because we make a story based on an octopus in this case, but we humanize it. And it's the same as we see BBC programs about the penguins. We like them. We like the little chicks or the little adelies or whatever penguins are, because they tell the story like they were humans. That's the reason why we like it, because we are prepared since the caveman timings for seeing the world and understand the world as stories.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, that's the reason why we hate it when there is not an ending. It's right. Frustrating. It is frustrating for the human brain.
We need that story.
We need the end. Yeah, we need it.
It may be cold outside, but schools and districts are already starting to think about summer and fall professional development. Are you looking for a professional development workshop that will help you learn how to build connections between multicultural picture books, authentic STEM experiences, and your curriculum? Look no further. Dr. Diane's Adventures in Learning has workshops for everybody. You'll explore strategies to get your students fully engaged in wanting to learn more. And you'll walk away with a new perspective on multicultural picture books, as well as strategies and ideas guaranteed to awaken your sense of wonder and to help you immediately build science and STEM connections in your early childhood, elementary, or library setting. Learn how to joyfully connect science and math to literacy, oral communication, gross motor skills, and dramatic and artistic play. Every activity and strategy can be completed using materials you already have in your classroom, school, or home education setting. Check out our offerings at drdianeadventures.com and book early for this summer and fall. And right now, for every workshop that's booked, we will make a donation to One Tree Planted so that we can offset our carbon footprint. We look forward to planning some wonderful adventures in learning with you this year. So how many times have you been to Antarctica, Nicole?
8.
And what have you noticed has changed over the time since you started going to Antarctica?
Well, it's very sad, but what I've noticed is much more vessels going there. And I don't know if it was with your group or not, but I think it was the last trip. But for the very first time, I saw in some of the areas traces of skis. People were skiing actually there, which is totally against of the idea of keeping the white continent without anybody visiting other than the teams of science or the ships that are very, very well organized and following the structure of 100 people maximum and following all the rules we do have. But it's that is showing us that if you have the money enough, you just hire little yachts and you go there and you ski and you do whatever. And it's not that I'm against to ski. It's just make then an organization and put in a special place, and maybe we can do something that is it could be good for the continent, could be good money raised for kids that are never be able to go to the continent. Then we can raise money for them and so on. But this is like random. And especially this year, I was hurt because with this famous birds aviar flu,
right?
The flu, that you can basically get not wanting it, but you can get it, and you need one specimen contaminated to make a mass with the colonies of penguins or whatever other birds. That was really for me. That was really hurting because we do so much things in order to preserve the continent, and then somebody just get there by.
Right. No, that makes a lot of sense to me. And I remember one of the things that was very apparent to me in the way that the trip was presented and that we went is they were trying their best to not contaminate the continent, to be very careful, to make sure that we weren't impacting habitat, all of that. And so I left with that sense that we've got to do more to be able to protect it and try to find that balance between telling the story and making people fall in love with Antarctica and not doing our human thing, which is to want to go in and ski or Instagram or whatever it is that drives somebody if you've got enough money to disregard the rules.
Yes, and that is it's going to be a problem. And so far, Antarctica is still really expensive to go, and the thing is, with so many vessels going there, and I know that the prices are going to be drop as well, and that is very good because it's going to be more accessible for a lot of people. But also, a lot of people is just because it's a cool destination to go, not because we really want to know about Antarctica, and not because really want to take care of Antarctica. And for the first time this year, because I do follow a lot of groups and a lot of information, I'm always trying to learn a little more. And for the first time this year, they are actually collecting garbage after other vessels leaving before yours. For the first time, we are having the problem of expedition teams getting on one of the destinations, one of the land sites dedicated for that, and finding a little granola bars, papers, or stuff like that, and that it's really, really, really bad. That is what is concerning me. But at the other hand, it's just like global warming. It's something that is going to happen sooner or later. It's so we need to learn a new way of dealing with that. We cannot just complain. I mean, let's do something about it.
What would you hope, based on what you know about Antarctica, what do we need to be doing right now to protect it?
For the tourism, in the terms?
Tourism or the continent itself?
Yeah. Well, for the tourism, I think it's, some parks, for instance, at least in my country, when you visit some parks, it's mandatory for you to sit and see all the videos, like the ones we saw in the first day on board, that are telling you, okay, you need to take care of this, then don't throw garbage, use the poles and whatever. But then you need to sign up a paper, and if you don't follow any of the rules, you pay a fine, and not just $20, but a big fine. And because that is the human,
right.
Unfortunately, you need to pay the fine, because we need to have the control. And it's not just because we are free controllers. It's because there is a unique ecosystem that is really, really delicate, and we can destroy it very easily if we don't follow this. I mean, it's when you are a little fellow bird that it's been there for the whole existence of Antarctica, and they don't have any protection against any virus, a new flu or whatever, they're going to die instantly. And you need just one in order to make a mess, right? So the victims are others, but the ones that bring the flu is going to be us, right? It might happen anyway that other birds bring it, but at least try to be not us. And that is by the education, as always. Education makes a big difference when you educate people, and especially when you make them understand. And sometimes in the rough way. I mean, it's not like you're going to affect the colonies. No, it's like 3,000 breathing couples in specifically this section might disappear forever if one of them get contaminated, and you give them the facts and you give them the whys. That is a real learning process, not just random telling. And you can even tell the story of the ones that disappeared already. So it's by education, as always.
Of course. No, that makes a lot of sense to me. And I'm thinking about individual responsibility as well as country's responsibility and global responsibility. You know, we all have a stake in Antarctica because our lives depend on it. I saw the glaciers firsthand, and I recognized the importance of the ice melt and what it could do to us in North America if we lose that water, if it starts raising sea levels. But even more than that, as you said, I think about those individual penguins. I think about the leopard seals that I saw in the ice. I think about how our actions here can impact their lives there. And they are living, breathing creatures.
Yeah, and Antarctica is like the Amazon is one of the areas in the world that affects the rest of the world. It's not Bora Bora that is super incredibly beautiful, but it's not affecting the rest of the world. Antarctica is actually something that keeps the temperatures of the planet. It's something that is affecting the climate. So it is super interesting for everybody, regardless if you live in Japan or United States or France or here. So it is for everybody.
So I have to ask, do you dream in penguin?
Not yet, but actually, don't tell anybody, but penguins are not my favorites in Antarctica. It's actually the leopard seals and the cormorant. But everybody, well, except the king penguins, but those are in South Georgia. But yeah, I know that everybody's crazy about penguins. But my favorites, it's been always, and I cannot explain this because it's not the most beautiful, but I love cormorants. I just love them, and the leopard seals. And somehow I feel good because they are there for most of people. It's just about penguins, and I'm like, no, this is my guy. The leopard seals. I thought they're fascinating the way they live, the way they hunt. It's an incredible world, and also the cormorants.
Yeah, and the leopard seals, their faces are just so incredible. They almost look like aliens. There's
Yes.
something to their smile, and the fact that we got to see mom and pup when we were there was just, for me, that's one of the things I took away from Antarctica was that moment of locking eyes with a leopard seal. You don't forget that.
No, and I never saw that before, and I never heard about somebody having the chances of seeing, because it's extremely rare to see a cat, because it's actually a week or 2 weeks. So it's like, it's not just the hardest of find them exactly the moment, but it's really short time when the pups are with the mother. So that was a very beautiful moment. I really treasure. Well, that day we saw all the seals. So
we did. There were 10 crab eater seals. There was the Weddell. There was the leopard seals. And then, of course, there were the penguins. And I do dream in penguin these days. I dream in Gentoo. They just have a very distinct bray.
See, I love, yes. I love the idea that for many days after you leave the ship, you still hear the penguins when you visit those places, and it's I think it's incredible. You keep for some days, few days, two things: the movement of the ship that keeps with you until probably you get home for a couple of days. You still feel the movement after crossing the Drake Passage, and also the impressive sound of the amount of penguins. I don't know if everybody knows it, but the impressive thing with Antarctica, unlike other places, is many places in the world, incredible places like Costa Rica or Africa, you have a huge amount of species with a few numbers of examples of them. So it's small. You go for seeing elephants, it's not like thousands of them or hundreds of them, lions, whatever. But in Antarctica, we have really few species. I mean, really few, but in super big numbers. And that is the incredible thing. It's so impressive, especially talking about the penguins. Sometimes you go and you see big colonies and you walk and they walk just in front of you. And if you are not careful enough, they get in your boots. So that is really impressive. It's
really
unique.
Is.
It is unique.
And the fact that there's not development, there's not a lot of other things there, they really stand out. The environment stands out. The popping of the glaciers or of the icebergs in the water, that sound that they make under pressure, that's the stuff that I can hear even now. And it haunts my dreams in a good way. It's one of those things that now that I have that experience, I'm not going to lose that experience. And it sort of informs as I'm thinking about what can I do here today that will protect that place that I've seen.
Yes, well, again, will be education. It's really beautiful to keep that. Not everybody do that. So that is very important to be able to take the minute to enjoy the nature, to actually listen and incorporate the nature, because we are a part of it. I mean, it's like we are a part of the universe, right? We are made of the same material than Saturn, Moon, or the glaciers. We are a part of it. And what is really impressive is, okay, so in nature in Antarctica, unlike many other places, in Antarctica, we don't have any land predators. So whatever is on land, they never are afraid of humans. And that is so different of the rest of the world. So that's the reason why it's so unique when you go to Antarctica to make a landing and walk around whatever they are. And regardless, it's flying birds, and they don't fly. They are just there in front of you. They don't fly because they never get scared. Penguins, they don't get scared, or seals, they don't get scared. So it's really nice when you take that and you incorporate it in your mind and in your heart, because it stays forever with you. And as you mentioned, the immensity of Antarctica, when you see the glaciers, when you hear the carvings, remind you how small we are, how little we are in the universe, how little we are in the planet where we are. So it's so massive. That is the reason I think it's so unique.
Hey, early childhood and elementary school teachers and librarians. Are you looking for ways to spice up your curriculum, build connections with engaged STEAM learners, and introduce multicultural versions of fairy tales and folk literature? If so, head over to drdianeadventures.com and check out our on-demand virtual course. Beyond Ever After STEAM on-demand virtual course allows you to work at your own pace and learn how to build these STEM-STEAM connections through multicultural fairy tales and folk literature. You'll receive professional development credits after you complete this high-energy 3-hour on-demand course produced with Steve Spangler, Inc. As a bonus, you're going to receive a PDF that's filled with curriculum connections and program ideas you can put to work immediately in your early childhood, elementary, or library setting. Discounts are available for group purchases, plus you get special pricing when you purchase it as part of a regular professional development workshop. So head on over to drdianeadventures.com and get started on your own Beyond Ever After experience. We just heard a little bit of that Gentoo song that haunts my dreams. Welcome back to our show. We are talking to Nicole Flores Jara. Nicole is a travel guide extraordinaire. I met her through Road Scholar. She also works with Signature Chile and other groups as well. I'm going to drop her contact information in the show notes so that you can reach out to her as well. Nicole was born and raised in Chile. Her passion about her country and the region have made her lead programs within South America and Antarctica since 1998. She's a true believer in lifetime learning, and I am so excited that we get to continue this conversation. Nicole, welcome back. So, if you could travel anywhere that you haven't been yet, where would you want to go? What would you want to see?
I think that unfortunately I never been in Syria, and that was one of the places in my list that I always wanted to visit it. So it will be still a place that and then Petra, probably. I never been in Petra. I think those are places. Maybe other places in New Zealand. I think New Zealand had a lot of places like Chile. New Zealand is a very beautiful place, but I know it's much more to see there. I like nature.
Me too.
It's one of the places I really want to go and visit. And maybe islands lost in the middle of nowhere just to be there, like Fiji or Reunion or whatever.
So I know that you do a program on Shackleton and you talk about the explorers of Antarctica. It sounds to me like you yourself are a bit of an explorer. And I'm wondering if that's part of why you're able to tell those stories so effectively.
No, I'm not. I will never understand the explorers. I will never, ever go and do what they did because I think it's just craziness. But you need craziness also to be evolving in the world. But no, I think the stories. I think that storytelling is something you need to masterpiece when you do what I do in my work. It's really, really important. So I did study a lot about storytelling. I do besides, my work, I officially can actually stand and just tell stories. Because I study for it because I thought it's a tool. Like any other tool, English is a tool, and a good outfit is a tool, and
Sure.
storytelling is a tool. So I always try to, whatever I do, regardless what it is, I try to make it a story, because I know the brain is connecting better with you if you do it in the form of story. That's simple. And in the case of Shackleton, I'm not a very big fan of Shackleton, but I know a lot of people is. In the case of Shackleton, it's just that something I did because basically my boss asked me for the virtual tours we do in Antarctica, and was a very, very big challenge. It took me forever to find out the way of doing it that was appealing, but was not making it a hero, but was not also making it, it's really complicated. It took me forever to put the images, and then it was the whole thing, because I wanted to make it interesting for the people that never heard about him, but I always want to make it interesting for the people that knew a lot about him. So, and at the end of the day, you make it when you do a good story, and it's a good story when you can do it without any images. I make a very good PowerPoint presentation, because it's an online, so that is very important. So I made a very good PowerPoint presentation with videos and movings, and very good. But for me, the most important thing is you should be able to do exactly the same without any PowerPoint. And the only way that your brain is going to be engaging with that is when you make it as a story. So, and that would be with any subject. If you can make it a story, you are going to be 10 points above. Not because of you, it's because the audience is going to get it better. The brain is going to, you need to know also, what do I want to do? I want to release dopamine. I want to release oxytocin. I need to avoid to release some other. I forgot the name. It's neurotransmitters. I forgot. Well, anyway, I need to avoid to release adrenaline in the brain, because that gets you very stressed. So how do you do that? Everything is a technique. Everything is a learning process, right? So that, okay, I need to exactly, and I always do it for instance, with the Shackleton history, I know exactly that I need to raise my voice in certain parts of the speech. I need to make a noise. I need to put it in first person. I need to put it like the person was talking in the first, it's like, and I was there, or he said something like this, and then quote, right? All of those are techniques that calls the attention. Why? Because at the end of the day, there is a lot of ways to make your brain engage, but the number one by far will be always a question. Why? Because if the brain of the other person listening is always asking, what is next? And what happened next? And what happened next? And what happened next? You're keeping that brain engaged. It's simple. It's simple. Well, it's simple in theory, right?
Right.
So how can I do that? By the development of a story that is engaging the audience with the techniques of rising, going to a climax and then decline it. You cannot have climate after climate after climate, because it gets overwhelming as well for the brain. It's like a movie with an action movie where every 5 minutes you have bullets and explosion and whatever. You get tired after half an hour of that, right? So you need to know where to put it, how you do it, how you study the curve, depending of how long is going to be your lecture or whatever. Everything is about the technique and making a compelling story. So, and you use that. But number one, don't forget, it's questions. This question is always putting questions on the brain.
So what's your favorite story to tell?
For Antarctica?
In general, do you have a favorite story?
Well, it's going to always depend. Depends of the the tours or the trips I'm leading. Sometimes I remember that I used to love to tell the real story of the origins of the story of Moby Dick, for instance, because there is a whole history behind Moby Dick, or how Hernan Melville ended up writing the story. It's related with the famous X's, but also something that happened in Chile, in the coast of our country, while the whalers' timing. So I used to love that story, or Robinson Crusoe. How does the beginning of Robinson Crusoe that actually happened in Chile, in front of the coast of Valparaiso, blah blah. So why? Because you keep the people engaged, and in the very beginning, this is like 10 years ago, I started doing all this because when you have long trips, you have a lot of time, and I find out the best way of filling up those, not just by talking, because I just hate to talk by talking, but I like to put some content, was with the story. So I start to try to prepare whatever might be interesting for some people. And of course, another important thing is nobody cares about your story until the moment they notice why they do care, why they should care. This famous nobody cares about your story until they know why you care about the story related with them. And so, depending on my target, if I am a French guide, right? So if I'm with French people and I do the same destination, let's say I go to Antarctica with the same destination, with the same clients, probably I'm going to be developing much more stories about other explorers, about Charcot or D'Urville, or why we have the Garlache or Strait, and because they it's more compelling for them. It means something for them. They have absolutely nothing, but there is something that goes in their brain that says, hey, this is related with me. So that is another thing. It's like you need to find out the way to make them feel that it's important for them.
That makes a lot of sense. And what is your next trip? Where are you going to next?
Well, in a week, I'm going for a few days to the desert, to San Pedro de Atacama. And after that, I have my last season trip to Antarctica with Rhodes Scholar. Yes.
Sounds exciting. Yes. Well, I can't wait to hear about your adventures and to hear how Antarctica has changed in the couple of months since I've been there. Nicole, thank you for being on the Adventures in Learning podcast today. And I wish you fair weather and good travels on your next trip.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. It was wonderful.
Thank you. You've been listening to the Adventures in Learning podcast with your host, Dr. Diane. If you like what you're hearing, please subscribe, download, and let us know what you think. And please tell a friend. If you want the full show notes and the pictures, please go to drdianeadventures.com. We look forward to you joining us on our next adventure.